Hello and welcome to the App Fairy podcast. My name is Carissa Christner. I'm very excited to have an interview today with Sago Mini.
Sago Mini.
That's S-A-G-O. Sago Mini is one of my favorite app developers. They are a company that has exceptional apps for very young users. Even kids as young as 2 and 3 years old, if a family is looking for recommendations for apps that are good to use with that age group, I will always recommend Sago Mini first. In October of 2015, I had the great fortune to be able to actually visit the offices of Sago Mini in Toronto, Ontario. I was there for a workshop for work, and I noticed that their company was based in Toronto, and so I contacted their office and I said, "Can I come visit?" And they were very happy to have me come and visit them. And so while I was there, I got to speak to a bunch of the different people who work to make the Sago Mini apps, and one of the people that I spent a lot of time talking to was Aaron Leighton. And I'm very excited to have Aaron here on the show today. He is the artist who creates all of the artwork for the Sago Mini apps, and he's here to talk with us a little bit about Sago Mini. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us, Aaron.
You're welcome. Great to be here.
So tell us a little bit about how you got started making apps.
So we've been creating interactive media for kids for quite a while, since before the iPhone, if anyone can remember back that far. It seems like we've always had iPhones. So the problem with this was that, using a desktop computer and mouse was not actually intuitive or easy for young kids. Older kids could do it. They could make the connection between moving something on a desk and seeing something move on a screen, but younger kids couldn't. Preschoolers couldn't really make that leap. So when the iPhone came along, it opened up opportunities to create touchscreen work for preschoolers, which almost no one was doing at that point. So we were one of the first companies to do that. And then when the iPad came along a few years later, the larger screen opened things up even more. So that's sort of how and why we got started.
You guys started off with a different name, right?
Yes, the company originally was called Zinc Row, and the first suite of apps, or the Sago Mini apps originally were called Tickle Tap apps. So I originally designed the characters back in 2009, I think. It's been quite a while.
I think the first app that I downloaded from you guys was the Soundbox one back when it was a Tickle Tap app.
Right. And so then in 2013, we paired up with Tokaboka, who a lot of your you listeners may be familiar with, who are our sister studio based in Sweden. And at that point, we became Sago Mini. So that's sort of how that all worked out.
Cool. Do you have any stories about where or how you found inspiration for any particular app?
Yeah, our apps can be inspired in any number of ways, actually, but I was thinking about it, and two that stand out for me in that regard would probably be Doodlecast and Babies. So Doodlecast is an app that lets the user both draw and record audio at the same time. And the inspiration behind this was very simple. It was just an observation that when kids drew pictures, they loved to make up stories about the drawing, and at the same time describing the narrative of what was going on. I mean, who hasn't seen a little kid do that?
Absolutely.
Doing a picture, and they tell you what they're drawing, they tell you the story. So that very simple but pointed observation was the sort of the inspiration behind an app that lets you both draw and record audio. So pretty simple. And then Babies, on the other hand, is an app in which you can play with baby versions of our 4 main characters. And that was inspired a few years ago when actually we were all out having lunch in a park, which we do a lot in the summer. We'll just the whole office will go outside to a park and get lunch and just sit on the grass and eat. And one of my colleagues saw a baby bulldog, or I guess that's called a puppy. So she saw a bulldog puppy, and I remember hearing her say, "We should make an app about babies." And that's literally as simple as it was, and that's how it started.
I love that. One of the things that I like about the Doodlecast app is that it's got some really subtle elements that make it different than some of the other apps that try to do something similar of a kid drawing and talking at the same time. One of the things that I really like about it is you have Ginger the cat sitting in the corner of the screen, and you can see the back of Ginger's head, sort of like Mystery Science Theater 3000, and he's watching, or she? Is Ginger a boy or girl?
She, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
We call her a girl, yeah.
Okay. And she is watching the screen, and when the little video of the drawing and the audio is done, she turns around and she cheers, right? Or she claps?
I think she claps. Yeah, it's been a while actually since I saw it, but I think she applauds you somehow.
Right. She gives you a little bit of positive feedback, and I just think that subtle little detail is really genius, right? Because it helps the kid to feel like they're interacting with somebody within the app. It's not just them talking to themselves.
Absolutely, and it's also, I mean, what kid doesn't love an audience, right?
Right, exactly.
I remember putting on plays, quote unquote, for my parents and their friends, and when kids put on plays, what kid hasn't done that?
I totally did that.
Performing, right? So, so I think even having Jinja as your audience, in addition to mom and dad and whoever else you might be playing with, it just adds that little extra, level of relatability for a kid.
Aaron, can you tell me a little bit about how the artwork for your apps was made? I know that when I visited your offices, I was super excited to see all of your sketchbooks. And so tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, I'm actually I was a freelance illustrator for 18 years before I started working at Sago. So drawing in sketchbooks for me has always just been second nature. It's always been just part of the job. So I love to draw. And I love to draw on paper. I'm very old-fashioned that way. But there's actually a few steps to the process of how art gets into an app. So, like I said, the first step is sketching out the idea on paper. And as you said, Chrissy, I've got multiple sketchbooks full of drawings. I like to have a record of the stuff that I've done. And when you draw on a tablet, it's not as easy to have that record.
It's true. Well, and I loved the whole row of them on the shelf was just really, really exciting to see all the different artwork you've done. Yeah,
everything that's ever been done in Sago Mini exists in those sketchbooks. So it's kind of cool. I know you're a librarian too, so you're biased towards, as I am, because both my parents were actually librarians.
Oh, really?
So I've got very much a soft spot for libraries and books and librarians in particular. So, so anyhow, I first sketch out the drawing on paper, and then I scan the sketch and we'll send it to one of our production artists. So the production artist then takes that scan and uses it as a template to create what we call vector artwork. So it's a vector artwork version of the image, and the software we use for this is called Adobe Illustrator. So once this artwork has been built, the production illustrator sends it along to a technical artist who prepares the art. And then this can go a couple of ways. If it's static art, which doesn't move, such as a background, she will integrate it directly into the app at that point. However, if the art needs to be animated, let's say it's a character, she will forward the art to our animator, who then uses a program called Animate, which formerly was known as Flash, and she animates the artwork and then sends it back to the technical artist, who then integrates it into the app. So there's a lot of back and forth, but it sort of slowly moves ahead in that direction, I guess you could say.
Tell us a little bit about your app testing process. I know you guys do a lot of that with kids.
Yeah, we were actually doing it today, as a matter of fact. We had 5 families in here. So our secret weapon, basically, if Sago has a secret weapon, and maybe weapon's the wrong word,
right.
Secret sauce.
There you go, your secret sauce.
The secret sauce is play testing. It informs everything we do, and it's indispensable for us. So every few weeks we have kids come in with their parents, like they did today, and our play designers and toy designers will actually sit down with the kids and play with the apps or toys that we're currently developing. So this experience is completely non-scripted, and it routinely offers a wealth of info as we observe how kids are actually using what we've made. Because it's really easy when you're developing an app to get into your own little grooves and start making assumptions that kids will use it this way or that way. And we don't want to do that. So, for example, if a kid is having trouble, if multiple kids are having trouble at the same spot in an app, if they're confused or if they just don't want to play with it, a lot of the time we know we have to go back and sort of rethink certain areas. So, like I said, it's completely invaluable. We have a little camera that we attach to the iPad, and it's you can't see the kid's face, just their hands. So then we will videotape. I still think I'm in the 80s. We will record what the kid is doing, and then sort of analyze that afterwards and sort of see where they were succeeding, where they were failing, where they were having trouble. And like I said, it's completely indispensable for us as we move forward, as we develop these ideas.
Have you ever had an app get to the point of being able to be tested and then just realize that the whole thing needs to be scrapped or totally revamped? Not totally scrapped. We've never done that. We have definitely sort of put the brakes on halfway through after having done a lot of work, and we've had to sort of go back and start from certain points again. And that's more of a production issue. We're getting a lot more into doing very solid pre-production now, so that doesn't happen as much. Mm-hmm. But once in a while, and this is more, again, in the past, we ended up with one solution would spawn 20 other questions, which we didn't see coming. Mm. And at that point, sometimes it does sort of throw things off. So we now find that if we sort of try to figure things out in pre-production, those surprises happen a lot less frequently. But happily, we've never had to scrap an entire app, because that would be pretty sad. It would be sad. Yeah, I honestly know that it's really apparent to me that you do this really thorough app testing process, because I've played other apps where I sit and watch my kids play it for the first time. And if both my 2-year-old and 6-year-old get stuck in the same spot, that's not their fault. That's something that's not right with the design of the app.
Exactly. And if you test early for that kind of thing, mm-hmm. there's that old saying in app development, test early, test often.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what we do. And so we absolutely don't want to encounter those problems with kids being confused once we're done. We just never go there.
And you do all of your app testing like in your offices?
Yeah, it's all here. Yeah, we have some nice comfy couches and tables of snacks and big, massive stuffed versions of the characters that are like 5 feet tall. So it's a very inviting space. A lot of kids actually don't want to leave.
Right.
They start crying when they have to leave.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah, because it's such a fun place to be. It's kind of like asking your kid to leave Santa's workshop, after you've taken them there.
Right. How do you recruit your kids for that?
We have a mailing list, a lot of word of mouth. They're all just local families. We just actually turned 4 years old officially, Sago, last week. Aww. And so we've built that mailing list up over the years, and it's taken a while, but that's basically how we do it.
Nice. Well, happy birthday, Sago Mini. That's very exciting.
Thank you.
So we've talked about how your offices are in Toronto, but how many employees do you have there?
We have 32 people in our company. So we started out with maybe 8, 9. We've grown a lot in the last 4 years.
Yeah.
So
how many apps are in the collection total? Do you know?
We currently have 22. Puppy Preschool was the most recent one, mm-hmm. Which was basically an app very light educational app, where you could basically learn to count and learn color matching and shapes and via a bunch of friendly dogs. Mm-hmm. So that was our most recent one, and we'll be launching a new one probably in April, followed by 3 more throughout this year.
All right. So about how many per year do you guys usually release?
About 4.
About 4 years?
4, sometimes 5, yeah.
But about how long does it take to develop an app from like idea to in the App Store?
At least 4 to 6 months. So I know once I told that to a bunch of kids, and they couldn't believe it. They thought it was maybe like a couple of weeks.
Right. Come on, chop.
Yeah. I often compare making an app to like making a movie or a film. Like it's sort of got all the same elements because it brings together so many different kind of developmental elements. Like there's the brainstorming, the idea phase, the pre-production, the production, the artwork, the development, and then the testing, and then the submission, and then the marketing. And so there's so many different kinds of input that go into these things that it is often, they're like little sort of movie productions. At least that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, they are. They're a lot like that.
Yeah.
Do you have a personal favorite app in your collection?
I still have a soft spot for our very first one, which was Forest Flyer. And the main reason for that is because the idea actually occurred to me in a dream.
Oh.
I wouldn't recommend that for a way to develop app ideas. But I dreamed about a little bird that was flying around in a forest. And I'd been actually trying to think of app ideas. This was way back a long time ago. And so I really like it, just maybe because it was the first one we ever did. I also really enjoy Monsters, which is an app where you can decorate a monster. I should have clarified that Forest Flyer is one of our Explore apps where you can take a little bird called Robin flying around in a forest, and fun little animations happen. You have little adventures, make discoveries. So that's what Forest Flyer is about. Whereas Monsters is what we call one of our create apps, which is more like a craft, more like something you make. And so you can pick different monsters and color them and cover them with eyes and mouths and decorations and brush their teeth and feed them. And it's very dynamic and it's very fun. And as a kid, I always loved Monsters. I still do. So that's another one of my favorites.
Yeah, I really like the monster one too. The thing that surprised me about it when I used it in a story time was that the next week, a mom came back and said that they had been using your Monsters app at home, and that every time her daughter used it, it made her want to go brush her teeth. And I honestly hadn't even picked up on, I knew that toothbrushing was part of it, but it wasn't a really significant part of the experience for me. But for this child, that was what was really exciting, was the toothbrushing.
Yeah, we've actually heard that from other parents too, that it actually has really helped them teach their kids about brushing their teeth. Because hey, if the monster wants to do it and he likes it, then I should do it too. Maybe it's not so bad.
Right. You know? Well, and not only that, but I mean, his teeth get awfully gray looking after he eats all that food. And
yeah, well, a lot of that food is garbage. I think some of it's apple cores and garlic and rotten cheese. So
and boots and things too, right?
Boots, yeah, rubber boots.
Yeah, definitely wanting to brush your teeth after all your rubber boots. So one of the really important concepts that librarians and researchers are trying to share with parents when it comes to sharing apps with kids is something called joint media engagement, which is really just a big fancy way of saying playing apps together with children, or using apps in a way that will build relationships between people rather than, putting up walls like sometimes having a screen in front of your face can do. So does the Sago Mini team keep this concept in mind at all as they are developing new apps? Have you heard of this concept?
I hadn't heard of that phrase, but it is actually one of our central tenets, I suppose you could say, that we really do keep that in mind for sure, obviously, because little kids ideally are playing these things, these apps that we make in conjunction with their parents. Mm-hmm. So we really do consider this. And we do so in a couple of different ways, actually.
Tell us about that.
Sure. So I'd say firstly, we try to remain mindful of the fact that kids like to share moments of humor or accomplishment by showing their parents what's happening on the screen. So we tried our best to have the app encourage this. So whether it's the mechanic, it's some fun way to move your hand around that does something funny, or it's the content. So example, with Doodlecast again, the app where you can draw and record audio, kids just love to show their parents the drawings and actually have their parents be part of it and then play it back and have a good laugh at whatever you did, Or let's talk about monsters again. Kids will love to make a monster and cover them with crazy stuff and then stop and show their parents what they've made. So we really try to let the app sort of contribute to that desire for kids to share what they've done. So that's the first way. The second way is that the play pattern of an app can actually directly encourage multi-user playing. So kids would be encouraged to play it with other kids. So for example, we have an app called Friends, which is sort of like play dates. You basically pick a character and then go knocking on your friends' doors and you go on a play date with them. So you can have two characters on the screen at the same time, and you can have one kid playing with one character and another one with another character. So it encourages kids to play with each other with the app instead of just by themselves.
So each kid can control a different character at the same time. You can have two different fingers, and then
yes.
That's a really great feature to incorporate.
Yeah, and it's just natural because it supports the idea. The app's about play dates and playing with your friends, so you should be able to play it with friends. And and then I guess the last way would be that each app comes with a letter to the parents, which you access on the main screen, which we hope can help inspire discussion between kids and their parents about the content and what kinds of stories they might tell about it. So we always try to leave room in our apps for the user to bring their own interpretation of what's going on. So ideally, the letter to the parents can act as a bit of a catalyst for mom and dad to talk to their kid about it and how they might imagine what's going on. So, for example, if they're in the forest in the fairy tale app, where are they going? Ginger the cat is now dressed as a knight. Why is she dressed as a knight? What is she going to go do? So that's, I guess, the third and final way that we would try to encourage joint media engagement.
I love it. And honestly, those letters to the parents, that is one of the elements that I look for when I discover a new app developer is I check out their info page to see if they have done anything to communicate with parents about why they developed an app a certain way, or if they have suggestions about ways to play together, because I think that is super important. So I love that you guys do that on your apps.
Well, absolutely. And I think, like parents are trusting their young kids with us. So we want to return that trust and have a certain level of, well, not just certain level, transparency and basically saying that we've done our homework here and we appreciate that you're letting your kid play with us, basically. So we want to try to make that experience as seamless as possible and talk not just to the kids, but to the parents as well.
Excuse me. Hi, I'm here. I'm the App Fairy. Hi, App Fairy. How are you doing today? I'm doing well, and I have some questions here from Gabriel. He's 6 years old, and he wants to know, hey, Sago Mini, how do you make the dog make sounds?
That's a very good question. Well, the characters' voices are all done by voice actors, or sometimes, as in the case of our most recent app, which is called Puppy Preschool, they're done by my colleagues, actually. So some of the dogs in that app, Puppy Preschool, are actually my fellow employees barking and panting and howling. So that's really cool to think that the people who I work with also they do some of the voices for things like dogs. The barks, on the other hand, are actual dogs. So all this is done by our sound designer. So he'll record the audio of my colleagues barking like dogs, and then he might not record actual dogs, although I think he did record his own dog. As well, he will pull from a library of pre-recorded sounds, and then he'll mix it all together, and that's how the sound gets done for an app. And this guy will also make the music for the apps, so he's a multi-talented guy.
Does he compose the music for the apps?
He does.
Thanks for that answer, Aaron. Gabriel has another question. He wants to know, how old is the cat and the dog and the rabbit and the guinea pig? Gabriel, that's really 4 questions. That's not one question, but that's okay. Do you have an answer for that, Aaron?
Yes, I actually do. We think of our animal characters actually as kids. Even though they're animals, we think of them not really like pets. We think of them as kids. And I've always thought of them as little kids. So I actually went through and I figured out how old all of the 4 main characters are, as well as the guinea pig. So Robin is the bird, and she's youngest, and she's 5. Then Harvey is the dog, and he is 6. And Rosie is the guinea pig. She's also 6. So Harvey and Rosie are the same age. Then the next oldest is Jack. He's the rabbit, and he is 7. And then the oldest character is Jinja the cat, and she's 8 years old. So I hope that answers your question.
That's an excellent answer. I had no idea they were all different ages. Okay, goodbye.
Bye, App Fairy.
Thanks for stopping by the studio, App Fairy. We'll see you next time. So, Aaron, Sago Mini tends to design apps for really young children. We've talked about that. But can you tell us a little bit about the different challenges of designing for that age group?
It's definitely challenging, and there's a few ways to look at it. I guess on a technical note, we consider designing for young kids to be, we call it an extreme form of user interaction, or UI, because you're dealing with users without a lot of preconceived ideas, for whom instructions are simply not an option. So you can't really rely on instructions, either written or verbal, and nor should you rely on excessive interfaces. The design and the flow of the app has to do all that heavy lifting. So, for example, to prompt a user to touch the screen, instead of having instructions telling them to do this, or having a button appear that they're supposed to tap, we'll have a character which wiggles, which intuitively prompts them to tap the screen. So one example might be in our app, Road Trip, where you can basically drive a car around. The car can move in a couple different ways. There are arrows that appear on either side of the screen, but that's only if you haven't picked the car up and started dragging it. So you can pick the car up with your finger and drag it along the road. You can pick the car up and move it up into the air and fly it like a plane. Or if you don't touch the screen at all for a while, Ginger the cat is driving the car. She'll start to wiggle. She'll start to sort of move, and that will prompt kids to maybe touch it. And if they still don't, then arrows will appear on either side of the screen saying, "Hey, if you tap here, then," or suggesting, "If you tap here, then the car is going to move." So, but we try to use arrows and buttons very, very sparingly, and if possible, we just try to have the design do all the work.
I think that is something that's really difficult for a lot of app developers to do. I've seen a lot of them who try to put in instructions or other things, and I really appreciate that yours are so subtle. In the Explorer apps, the little kind of sunburst things to let kids know where there might be some interactive element.
Right.
I think those are another example of how you guys do a great job of just making it very intuitive and very easy for kids to figure out on their own.
Right. And I think it's really easy to forget that little kids can't read. Right. They can't read a lot of the time, so until they get a little older. So you can't rely on written instructions, and because then mom and dad have to help the kid, and we ideally want a kid to be able to, a young preschooler, to be able to open this thing up and just start playing right away, straight out of the gate.
And they don't even always understand symbols. I mean, I know that, I tried to, when my son was very young, I thought, well, I'm going to give him a graphic novel that's wordless. And so I found I don't know if you've read the Owly graphic novels, but they are wordless. But the character has these speech bubbles above his head that have things like exclamation points to, show surprise, or skull and crossbones to show danger. And I realized that, even though they weren't words, my son still didn't understand those symbols enough to be able to interpret them. And so, yeah, you're right, that it's more than even just whether or not they can read text, but whether they're even familiar enough with symbols to be able to read those.
Well, I think that's a really good point, because on a more philosophical note, aside from the technical side, we're also constantly mindful of the fact that as adults, we've forgotten what it's actually like to be a kid, to be a 3-year-old, and how the world looks at that age. You don't necessarily understand symbols, right? So adults have accrued a lot of assumptions about how the world works, but preschoolers haven't. And, they're constantly learning. So we really try to put ourselves back in that mindset of constant experimentation and evaluation, along with that childlike sense of wonder. And, of course, the best way to do this is to spend time playing with kids,
right,
and and look at how they see the world.
Right. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think I just had one additional thing I was going to share, is that basically in the last 2 years since you came and visited us, we've started making toys, like physical toys. And that's been really exciting and a new direction for us.
Tell us about that. How does that work together with the apps?
Sago has always been rooted in the idea that kids learn best through open-ended play, as opposed to competitive play or didactic instruction. So toys are really just an extension of the play experience kids already have in our apps. So we wanted to expand on this and enable kids to play with the characters off the screen as well, basically. So we've always considered our apps to be digital toys as opposed to video games, which is a bit of a leap for some people to try to make, but we don't look at them as video games. We've always looked at them as toys. So we sort of think that both digital play and physical play have benefits for kids. It doesn't have to be either or. And it's always finding a balance between those two. So really, we're just hoping that our physical toys enhance the experience that our kids have with our digital toys.
I really like that description of thinking about the apps as a digital toy. And honestly, those are my favorite. I think a lot of parents come to me and want to know what my favorite spelling app is or what my favorite math app is. But honestly, since my main audience at my library is for preschool children, I really prefer the play apps like yours and the toy apps.
Yeah, and I think it's one of our, another one of our core philosophies is that kids learn through playing. And that's not us, just making that up. It's just watching kids. Like, how do you learn to not touch a hornet's nest?
Right.
You learn by doing it. You don't learn by just sitting in a classroom and hearing that pointy, stingy things come out of that if you poke it with a stick.
Right.
So that's how kids learn. They learn by experimenting. They learn by making mistakes. They learn by trying over and over again different solutions. And so that's why we consider our apps more to be toys, because they encourage that exploration, that experimentation.
And that's one of the reasons why I love you guys so much, and your apps are so fantastic and I think perfect for, like I said, for the youngest users. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
What kind of toys do you make?
We're doing a lot of different stuff, but we've done plushies, floor puzzle mats with little play vehicles. We've done little board books and even bedding, quilts that you can tuck with pockets you can tuck the plushies into.
Oh.
And we also do portable play sets. So one of them was called Ginger's House, and it's almost like as if you took one of the houses from our Friends app where the characters live and externalized it. So you can basically go on a play date with Ginger and Rosie, who come with the play set as little figurines. And then you can package the box, the play set, which is a little house, sort of packages up. It's all self-contained. It's got an elastic strap on it, and you can keep all the pieces inside it. So there's no mess. idea in theory.
Right. That's the idea.
Yeah, so we've got some exciting stuff on the burner too that's coming out in the next year. So we're really excited about our toys.
Awesome! I can't wait.
And basically the main place that if people are interested, they can go find them on Amazon.com.
Oh, okay. So not necessarily on your website.
Well, you can learn about them via our website at sagomini.com. There's a toy section, but to purchase them, they're in a variety of stores across the U.S. and Canada. But the easiest place would probably be Amazon.com.
Aaron, thanks so much for coming on to the show today.
Well, thank you guys so much. It was really fun, and thank you for the opportunity to be on your show, because it's really exciting, and I'm so happy you're doing it.
Thanks, Aaron. This has been such a great conversation, and I've really enjoyed talking with you, and I hope that our listeners have also enjoyed hearing a little bit more about how the Sago Mini apps are created and a little bit more about the philosophies behind that. And listeners, if you have any questions for me or for Aaron from Sago Mini and would like to send them to us, you can go to my website at www.appfairy.org and submit your questions there. You'll also find pictures of Aaron Leighton and me when I went up to visit him in Toronto. You'll see photos of the Sago Mini offices in their new digs. You'll also find some photos of Aaron's sketchbook, which are so inspiring and beautiful and just exciting to look at. And they also have a free printable of a airplane that you can cut out from their Planes app.
Hold it. Were you trying to end the show without talking to me?
Well, I was trying to.
No such luck, sister. I am here and I'm going to share another favorite feature of bad apps with you. For this episode, I want to talk about apps that are marketed to kids but have inappropriate content. Ooh, these make some of my favorite bad apps. They are just so deliciously awful. I know I said I wouldn't name any specific apps, but in this case, I just can't resist. That good app fairy has her hidden gems, and I want to tell you about some hidden stinkers this time.
But, Bad App Fairy, what if people actually buy these apps that you're recommending? Listeners, I do not endorse whatever app she's about to mention.
Oh, if they buy them, then that just means that more people can use bad apps, which is my secret, sneaky, evil plan. Oh, this is working out perfectly. Okay. My first inappropriate hidden stinker app of this episode is Princess Shaving Salon.
Wait a minute. Did you just say shaving salon, as in like razors?
Yes! This app features princesses that sort of look like Barbie with bad hygiene. These princesses look great to me, the bad app fairy, because I like a few warts and hair sprouting out of your ears and nostrils and an infestation of lice. But these princesses don't look like they're enjoying those things at all. So kids are instructed to pluck and shave or wax all of those unwanted hairs from the princesses. There's also a leg salon so they can remove hair from all over.
Wait, so kids are playing with virtual razors and hot wax and worrying about these beauty concerns. Did you say there were lice infestations? Ugh, you're right. This really doesn't sound very age appropriate.
I know, isn't it great? Okay. The second hidden stinker for today is an app called Colonoscopy Simulator.
Colonoscopy Simulator? But surely that's marketed for adults?
Well, the description says, fun colon, gastric, and stomach doctor game for all ages. And the artwork is very cartoony, so I'm still calling it an awesomely inappropriate app for kids.
I'm inclined to agree with you, Bad App Fairy. Those do sound inappropriate.
I just love inappropriate apps. The best part is, most of the time, they're free. Some even have in-app purchases with no parental baby gate, making them super inappropriate for kids. Everyone should go out today and stock up on inappropriate apps like these.
Listeners, I beg you not to stock up on inappropriate apps.
You're no fun.
I know. Well, can I get back to doing the credits now?
I guess so, but I'll be back next time with more ways to find bad apps. You mark my words.
Okay, well, bye, Bad App Fairy. The App Fairy podcast is a production of the Madison Public Library and is sponsored by the Joan Ganz Cooney Center, a nonprofit research and innovation lab dedicated to advancing children's learning in a digital age. Visit cooneycenter.org for more information about the work that they do. That's Cooney, Cooney. If you'd like more information about the podcast, check out our website at www.appfairy.org, where we'll post lots of goodies online for you to enjoy. A big thanks to Audrey Martinovich, our audio engineer, David Seste, who created our theme music, and Hannah Sandvold, who designed our fantastic artwork and brought the App Fairy to life. My name is Carissa Christner. Thanks for listening.
Listeners, it's the App Fairy here with the hidden gem for the episode. This time, the hidden gem is an app called Read in Bed. That's R-E-D, not read like I'm reading books. Read in Bed. And it's all about a family of colorful dots, all in the colors of the rainbow. And one day, Red wakes up and he's not feeling so well. And so all of the other colors decide to help out. It's a very sweet little story, and it's just done very well, and I think that you'll enjoy listening to the story of Read in Bed. Be sure to tap on the colors and figure out what notes they play. They each have their own separate note. Thanks so much. See you next time. Bye.